you have a house, you have a physical house, but you also have a deed. So you have two different things. There you go.
I don't get it.
So that's the thing. You have one physical thing and then one thing that's a record. And that's essentially all it is an NFT is a thing with a digital record. So it could be the exact same physical thing. Like everyone owns a laptop, but
what's the digital record?
So the digital record is on the cryptocurrency blockchains. So that's where it gets kind of complicated.
What's a blockchain?
That's blockchain. How they mine cryptocurrency.
Essentially it's a cryptocurrency address. So
you know how like people mine for copper or gold?
Sure.
It's like that, but it's all digital.
Sift through it.
So instead of taking a pickaxe into the dirt, they have to take supercomputers and do math.
So think of it like
they unlock some stuff. I don't understand.
It's money in the end. I mean, do you understand where your money goes? It's in a bank, and there's a little register that says
right down the toilet. Where my money goes.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. That was a fun introduction to nothing important. I'm your host, KJ, along with fellow co-hosts Nathan and Patrick. What up, everybody?
Hi.
Hello, kids. I don't know. It's probably
how are your holidays?
Good. 2 thumbs up.
Very, thankful, I guess, that none of us were sick. So,
I did the plural actually. We did a Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Ooh. Well, I know you had
Saturday.
A hosted event,
yeah, we
right?
hosted it. Crushed it.
Okay.
Crushed
it.
If you need host for your parties, people, hit us
hire
up.
The
Actually, Emily and I'll say Emily and Patrick. I'll put her name first.
I was gonna say, come on, who cooked?
She did most of it.
That's because you're newlyweds.
I did the turkey, so I felt like that was pretty important. But
you carved it?
I did carve
or you
it.
actually
Not
make
there.
it?
I did both. We brined it and then cooked it, and then I cut it up, and then we did all that the day before. Well, the brining 2 days before the cooking.
Have you guys ever deep fried a turkey?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It really is. Okay. I'm going to sit here and talk too much about it if you guys haven't done it yet. So it's
fine. You sat here and talked about Caesar's Palace buffet.
I know.
So.
Hey, and did you see how many people said, "Wow, yes, I back you up, people. Nathan"?
I saw 2 people. One of them was Jerry.
One of them was Jerry.
Yeah. And the other one was Jennifer's husband, who I told about that night because I went and hung out with them. And he was like, "Oh, actually, though, Caesar's Palace buffet, don't sleep on it."
I saw somebody else.
All right, man.
It is really good.
Maddie, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's a next level buffets. But I don't want to sit here and right now. We'll talk about it when we're potentially going to Vegas
we're
someday.
Live in Vegas,
exactly.
Baby.
So maybe Janchi in Vegas,
2024.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be a while.
I do need it to be planned out that far in advance.
That's fair. Yeah, you're a busy man.
And to be fair, I don't know how safe I feel about eating at a buffet right now. So.
Yeah, I think buffets might kind of be ruined for me. Anyways, that's not what this episode is about. Nathan, will you explain to the new listeners what Janchi is, why we call ourselves the Janchi Show, and what's going to happen?
Yes. Well, we Janchi, we use it in multiple ways right now. We're using it as a verb. We're using it as a noun. We just, we like to mix it up. We Janchi it up. We're
That's
doing
true.
a Janchi.
Right.
We're, I'm saying, don't be so Janchi. I don't know. But Janchi means to celebrate feast. And it's a new one.
Yeah, don't be so feasty.
Don't be so feasty.
The Feasty Boys.
Don't celebrate so much.
Ooh, I like that one.
The Feasty Boys. Okay. But yes, we are celebrating our Korean adoption heritage, especially because this is just the end of National Adoption Awareness Month. So
it is just ended yesterday.
Yeah.
What you did? Yeah. I had to count. I had to do the little thing. 30 days, hasn't it?
30 days.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, how does it start?
30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest is 31, except for February.
Except for February, which is dumb.
Is that how that goes? I can't remember how.
No,
Couldn't remember how it ended.
It usually just ends with all the rest have 31.
Yeah.
What were you just doing?
I always remember like it's the spaces in between.
Oh, yeah.
The big space is February because it's 28.
Works if you have a 5-digit hand.
Yeah, sorry.
You can't do that over here.
I just do it on one hand. Just the same hand. Just one hand.
What if you only have one hand and it's missing digits?
Then I would count my toes.
Dude, okay. You're just spiraling the drain right now. Well,
I have to edit this now so Nathan doesn't get canceled.
I know. Right? Sorry.
I was just going to plug and play, but now we have to edit it way down because Nathan's going to get canceled.
Now
you can just leave it in.
Insensitive. Yes.
Blast Nathan's DM.
That was funny. It wasn't funny, but it was kind of funny.
It was a little funny.
I did laugh. You can hear through the whole thing. Okay, so we were just talking about, before we get into this really good interview that we have coming up, yesterday was the last day of NAM, and I figured we could maybe jump back and think about what we were thinking at the beginning of this month, which seems like it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And, just kind of revisit, or maybe just talk about a little bit about how this went for us, because I know Nathan continued to prolifically share, and then I think you did kind of, and maybe I don't want to speak for you, but maybe hit a wall at some point. I know you were dealing with mass sickness in your home.
I did. So. Yeah, the sickness. It was a sickness wall, and it kind of derailed me for a few days there, and then I had to get back on track, and I got a few things out, but then of course that was right before the holidays, so yeah, it kind of. It derailed my focus to the point where I still got some stuff out, but I don't think I got as much content out as I had wanted to, or as I was at the very beginning. But I feel like I didn't count, but I think I missed like 4 days, maybe.
That's not very many. You did a lot.
Yeah,
hitting 20 for 30 is impressive. So
it was
26 is really.
It was more than I've ever posted in a single month. So. I have to say that I was
your
proud
impressions
of that.
went through the roof.
Exactly. No, I think I gained 100 new followers. I think there was some good connections made. Some people also reached out to me, just thanking me for all the posts that I had been making, and
nice.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't agree with everything I said, or others that really resonated with it. But
that's true. That's why I said almost nothing.
That's why it is. That's why it's MySpace. No, not MySpace, it's Instagram. But you know what I'm saying.
We got you. But this is a top 3 world, not a top 8, according to KJ. Wait, why do you say that's why you say almost nothing? Or you said almost nothing? So
because I don't agree with Nathan. Nathan's like, I know some people don't agree with what I post. And I was like, yeah, that's why I've given him basically no feedback.
Gave me no emojis.
We were saving it for this episode. No, we know KJ, if it doesn't come up in his top 3 on his feed.
Yeah, I'm such a lazy.
Not going to engage with
it. Yeah.
I don't know, KJ, what was it for? I think for you, when that first episode came out, you got a lot of good
words
feedback.
in my mouth.
You got a lot of I'm putting other people's words into their own mouths.
You're writing the history books.
Yeah.
Going back into the archives.
Regurgitating.
They showed you a lot of love for what you said about just trying to figure out how you engage with this month and like show support, but realizing that this is not really the space that you're trying to even be in maybe at the moment. I don't know. Did that evolve at all? Were you just too busy to really do anything with it? Because I found myself to be far too busy at a certain point. And I was just like, I can't even give any more to this. I don't have any more right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some personal stuff that like just work, eating up my brain space and whatnot. But no, I think after that episode came out, in my head, I just was really intentional about how much I shared and how I shared on our solo episodes.
Sure.
Because I don't post, but I do a podcast. So, just making sure that I think giving myself the freedom and making a conscious choice to not be so buttoned up, not be so well thought out, which is really hard for me because I'm an internal processor first, and then I like to speak about things. But just to shoot from the hip and be like, all right, here's all of what's rattling around in my brain, and there's no questions and there's no answers, and I'm not good at handing off to either of you. I think that's what I've tried to do, just to get it out there, and to try out some new language, which has been interesting. But I don't know when this is going to drop because it's not quite done. But I did collaborate with another Korean adoptee, and we wrote a song.
Is it me?
And I have I've shared it with our social media person, Katie, because it was kind of inspired from one of her posts. And so it's a song that is around the idea of loss and around the idea of searching for birth parents and what that feels like. And yeah, I don't know. So I'm really excited about it. It's not like the ones that I've released previously have been like, oh, this is my emotions and my feelings and whatever. So like for me, this is more of a concept piece, but I know that for so many adoptees who are thinking about reunification, thinking about starting their family searches and things like that, like this is something that really preys on their mind. And so I hope that, I don't know. It was fun to write something that wasn't like specifically of me, but like felt like it could resonate with people in our community. So yeah, so I don't know when it's going to drop, but it is almost done and I'm really excited about it. And yeah.
Cool. I'm excited about it.
I am also excited about it.
I'll send you a demo.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah, no.
Sneak
Do
peek.
send me one. You don't have to send him one, but that is really exciting. Exclusive announcement here on the show.
Yeah,
I guess it's his own
Exclusive.
show, but
New music from the
Exclusive.
Feasty Boys.
But I think that the topic of that song is a great segue into our interview today. We have an incredible fellow adoptee, Mary Byrne, with us, and she is going to talk a little bit about her journey through reunion. And she talks about patience in that journey. And I think it's a really great lesson that I've taken out of it just from re-listening to it. But excited to share that with everyone today. So without further ado, here is our interview with Mary Byrne.
Kaja.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. We have an incredible interview today for everyone out there. We have Mary Byrne with us today. Am I saying your last name right, Mary?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Nailed it first time. Usually Nathan is the one messing up the last names, so
We're still asking on air.
But I always
so,
correct
some things
myself
never
and ask.
change.
we're always got to correct ourselves on the air.
It's
So-
good to ask, just in case.
Mary,
Everybody
it is,
messes it up in some way.
That's. I mean, everybody can get their name messed up at any point in time. I think that's just human nature.
I mean, last time you guys were calling me Nason and things like that.
I did call you
so-
Nathan, and he called you
Yeah.
Nathan.
Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan Norwalk.
So there you go.
Nathan Norwalk,
A year of podcasting, and you can't even say my name.
the doppelganger, Nathan Norwalk.
Well, that
All
was
right.
that's who he was before he died and came back to life.
Oh, right. That was post or pre-car
We'll
crash.
talk about that on a solo episode. Mary,
Okay.
this is your time. We're sorry.
That is very true. We are here to speak with Mary Byrne today. Mary, thank you so much for joining us on the show. If you haven't had a chance to listen, usually how we start these off is by asking a little bit about your adoption story. So, Mary, share as much or as little as you want about your story with adoption. Where does that begin for you?
Sure. So I was adopted at 4 months old from Seoul, South Korea. I was adopted to a very Irish Catholic family in St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up very Irish Catholic, grew up pretty white, pretty sheltered. And I always knew I was adopted. I was always curious about my birth parents, and then never really got the guts to start searching for them until 2012. But I always knew I was adopted. That was never a secret. And yeah, that's how I came to be in the United States.
Awesome. So what was it like growing up in St. Louis? You said it was a pretty predominantly white area that you grew up in.
Yes. I went to private Catholic school from age 4 to age 18. I was one of, I want to say 3 Asians up to 6th grade. And then I was one of 4 Asians 7th through 12th grade. And other than my high school job of working at Kumon, I never really saw any other Asians around me. Working there was like every Asian around Chesterfield, Missouri came out. And I was like, oh, look at this. And then like I never, saw Asian families in public, which was weird, but that was just kind of the experience of like, okay, I'm in this like white little bubble.
Except at Kumon.
Except at Kumon.
First off, I don't know what that is. So.
Oh, you don't?
Oh, it's a math and reading center. So I went there as a kid because I struggled
familiar,
with
but
math.
I couldn't remember. I was like, "What is that?"
It's after school, extra school,
Yeah,
essentially.
Yes,
Okay.
extra homework.
Yeah.
So I went there
Hooray.
to improve my math, got better, and then I began tutoring there at age 15.
Okay, gotcha.
And tutored there for a while.
Yeah, my wife also went, and yeah, it's what I hear. It's where all the Asian families send their kids to keep learning after school.
So what was that dynamic like for you when you made your way into that school and like had yourself surrounded by a bunch of other Asian people, even though that's not generally where you were spending most of your time?
It was kind of a strange out-of-body experience where I'd go there on Saturday mornings to, turn in my homework, take like the class. And that was the only moment that I remember growing up where I was like, I'm a majority and I'm with this outer collective of people that look like me. As I got a little older, I kind of worried about stereotypes as far as East Asian kids excelling in math and reading and just school in general. And then I kind of unintentionally put that pressure and stereotype on myself where I was like, all right, well, if people are going to stereotype me anyway, I might as well like live up to the name and, really kind of go for school. It was already innately in me, but that stereotype was always in the back of my head where it's like, oh, if I don't excel in math, what kind of Asian am I? It was very weird. I hadn't, fully accepted being Asian, I guess, growing up. So it was an internal battle for that.
I tried to go the opposite. I was like, I'm not very good at math. I don't balance a checkbook. I'm just gonna. Although I did play table tennis. Yeah, table tennis and drove.
I know what a checkbook is.
I drove a Honda. So
I was going to say the same thing. I went the complete opposite direction. Like I went as far away from the stereotypes. I'm like, I hate math. I'm terrible at it. Somehow found myself in all the advanced math classes. And it's like very obvious that I was like the only way I was passing these was by cheating off of people that knew what they were doing. So like literally like I want to get away because I didn't have like a Kumon. Is that what it's? Is that what it's called? How to pronounce? I didn't have something like that to go and experience that. So I think that's really interesting that you were able to find that place or be a part of that and then kind of internalize it in a way of like, this is me being connected to Asian culture. Like, let me actually like do these things as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, it was really neat. It's more impactful kind of looking back on the experience where I'm realizing the feelings that I had in that environment because I hadn't thought about it for a while. But as I'm going through my journey of accepting myself as a Korean American adoptee, I'm like, oh, I subconsciously felt comfortable being surrounded by people that look like me just for being a part of a collective that is normally not part of my background environment. Like it's, I don't know. It was a good experience in retrospect. It was nice to have that.
Did you have friends in there as well? Or did you hang out with them after?
No, I was only in there. I was the only one that kind of went. My cousins went as well because they were also struggling with math, but they never taught there. I just taught there because my brother had taught there. So we had a good reputation of like, we excelled in the program, so we can obviously teach it to other kids type of thing.
Okay. Is your brother adopted also, or?
Oh, he
biological?
is biological.
Okay.
I follow a lot of adoptee stories where my parents tried forever to have kids, and then the year after they started the adoption process, they had my brother. But they wanted multiple kids, and it was such a pain to have just one that they kept the process going so that they could have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So you talked about the experience of going to the school and not only being part of it, but then as a student, but then like teaching there as well, as being really surreal, as being so far abridged from, or apart from the bridge, I guess. I don't know if I'm using that metaphor correctly. Away from
It's
what
a real Ender's Game situation.
away, away from what you like were normally doing and outside of that. So was there any crossover from like what you were experiencing at that school that you were able to bring back to your life with like your adoptive family as you were growing up from 4 to 18?
Not really. They kind of, my adoptive parents, as well as being in a private school setting, kind of put a lot of pressure to excel in school on me. So in that respect, that was the only kind of stereotype that I saw where I was like, oh, I have Asian parents that aren't Asian parents, that they expect you to achieve at a high level, and get really good grades and go to, really good school, high school, college, whatever. They had extremely high aspirations for me, like, oh, be a doctor, be a lawyer. I didn't learn that stereotype until way after the fact. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But yeah, that's the only kind of crossover experience where I could overhear parents at Kumon telling that to their kids, and then I would come home and kind of hear the same thing.
I totally get that because I had a pretty similar experience. I spent most of my education in private school, and my parents really wanted me to excel and do well. So I felt the pressure of getting good grades and also just like being disciplined enough to do school properly because I was super lazy as a kid. And like I took piano when I was 5, which apparently if it's not piano, it's violin. Like those are very common like classical instruments to learn. Which I mean makes sense. And fortunately, I actually liked piano, but I also remember like hating practicing the piano, and so like my mom just being like, "You have to practice piano 30 minutes every day," whoa, whatever. And I was just like, "This is awful." But like, so yeah, I definitely relate to that like tiger mom experience. Except your mom's not a tiger; she's a whatever's native to America cat.
Domestic house cat.
Yeah, no, I don't know what cats are native to America. Bobcat, I don't know. Anyways, so the Bobcat mom, does that track? Anyways, yeah, I'm curious. Something that I thought was interesting when you were talking about your adoption story is you said 2012 was the moment when you finally got the guts to do a birth search, and I'm curious, what does it mean for you to quote have the guts to start that process? Like, why was that such a like a momentous thing for you? Because I think for some people it's like, oh yeah, I super understand that, and others I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, I'm curious about my adoption and my biological family or whatever. And for me, in my household, that was a very open conversation. Like they were very open to that. So I'm curious what in your experience led you to use that phrase, like got the guts to start searching?
So when I was growing up, like I said, I knew I was adopted, but that's where it kind of ended. It was very much, I kind of want to say white savior complex looking back on it, where it was, I heard the rhetoric, you're so lucky you're here, you're so fortunate, you should be grateful. A lot growing up. I heard from my adoptive parents, we saved you from that orphanage, we gave you a better life, all this stuff that I didn't really understand how negatively impactful that was for me on a mental level. So as I got older, I kept asking more and more questions. When I was getting a little sassier, I tested those, boundaries with your parents as a kid does. And I said things like, well, you're not my real mom. Like I didn't come from you, because I learned about biology and anatomy. And I was like, well, obviously, like you're not my real mom. You're just, this person that has me. And there was a lot of negative pushback with that. So I never got the sense that, especially my adoptive mom, ever wanted me to try to search for my birth parents in any regard. Just, I'm hers and I'm there. And I finally hit this point in my life when I was having some difficulties with them, that I decided, you know what, I want to do this for myself. I've been so separated from this identity that I want to begin this search and do it on my own for myself.
Yeah. So does the bravery in that process really, I think, would it be fair to say that it represents just like that clear marcation of independence and like starting out and like figuring out like who you are, and kind of like that break from, not break maybe, but like just, line of marcation between you and your family, and thinking about like, who do I want to be now moving forward?
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. And I didn't tell anybody in my adoptive family that I was beginning the search necessarily. I did try to get them to tell me, what agency they use. I knew Holt, but Holt has so many different subsidiaries under it. I was like, okay, but which Holt? And they wouldn't give me that information, which just supported the idea that they didn't want me to go on this search, which was extremely frustrating, because at that point I was, in my early 20s, and I was like, why can't I learn about my past as an adult? Like, why are you trying to keep it from me for whatever reason? It's not, I'm a Byrne, I'm Irish, and that's it. Like, I'm clearly not. I'm the opposite of Irish. So, like, what am I supposed to do with that?
I think that's very accurate to say that just Asian in general is the opposite of Irish. I think that's pretty accurate.
I will say though, there was a comedian I saw on Comedy Central who is Korean Irish, and I don't know, like if his family had emigrated there. And I was like, this is weird to my brain hole, but it was really funny. I don't remember his name, but I was like, huh.
Oh, his last name is Byrne.
So, really?
I watched that comedy special. Yeah.
Oh,
no
There's
joke.
a comedian. There's
like
an Asian comedian with the last name
ago.
Byrne.
huh.
That's incredible.
I think this is his joke too. He just talked about like macaroni and cheese, and how when you hear macaroni and cheese in a pot, you just get super excited just for that like little, whatever, and you're like, oh, I know what's coming. It was I don't know. It was really funny. It was just like a quick like Comedy Central like lineup before maybe Asian comedians. Yeah, it's just like
Classic.
Korean Irish. But I think he was living in Tennessee. I don't know. It was weird. It was a whole. We talk about intersectionality. That
yeah,
is
right.
deeply intersectional.
That's a whole nother topic that we're gonna have to get into it on another solo. So Mary, knowing that you have this roadblock of like your adoptive parents saying, we're not going to help you, we're not going to give you this information in 2012, where do you start? Where does Mary in 2012 start this search, knowing that you have like this obstacle in front of you?
So I knew Holt. So I started at the top, and I started with Holt International Children's Services, because to my knowledge, like that was the big one. And if I could find something, hopefully I could find it there. And then I got an email back from them saying that they couldn't find my records anywhere. So maybe try Holt Children's Services of Korea. But that kind of, I stopped after that. I was going through some schooling changes. At that point, I had withdrawn from graduate school. I had shifted careers. So, all those life events kind of came at the same time. But I actually paused my search for about a year and a half, after learning to try Holt Children's Services of Korea, and then didn't resume until 2014. And then, I did go through Holt Children's Services of Korea, gave them all my information, filled out all of the forms. And then I actually received this huge PDF, it was like 30 pages or something, of my file that they had on record, which was incredible. Because it had everything handwritten in Korean, and then it had a typed version in English, and it had my birth parents, at least, ages, marital status, blood type, education. It had guardianship, so the official form to transfer me to like the orphanage and into government custody. It had reasons for relinquishment, so it gave a little bit of a backstory as to why I was relinquished. It had a full pre-flight child report that basically said I was good to go, good to send off. My temperament was good. My eating habits are solid, all that jazz. And then any other general development recorded by the foster family that I was with. Just supporting, like, yeah, she reached this age, and to our knowledge, she's good to get on a plane and go.
What was it like after reaching out to Holt Children's Services after a 1.5-year pause, and then they respond and say, here's this 30-page PDF? Do you remember what your just initial reaction was to be like, oh, wow? Or not, that was my reaction, obviously, but what was your reaction?
That's his reaction to your story.
Yeah. What was it? Do you remember like what you were feeling in that moment, or like what you had just like initially taken away from just receiving that email?
I was in absolute shock that, the day after I had submitted all of my final documentation, I was like, okay, I won't hear from them for a while. And the next day they're like, well, here's what we have so far. And then we'll like start with your parents, but here's what we've got. I was in absolute shock. And I remember printing it out and just reading it over and over and over again. Like, I couldn't believe that this information was finally in my hands, that I had all of this background information that I feel like a lot of non-adopted people take for granted. Like, oh, I have stories from you as a newborn all the way till now. Like, no, the earliest baby picture that my parents have is me as a 4-month-old. Like, I have 2 infant photos that were in the file with all of my stuff, and that's it. So this is weird to say, but almost like I existed in Korea before I came to America, seeing that reality, seeing pen to paper, here's what you were like before you got into the custody of Americans, was more affirming of my search than anything. It was like I just started to scratch the surface of like the Korean side of me that I had never even tried to find before. So I just remember being extremely emotional and, almost to the point of compromising. If this is all I get out of this search, then it would still be something. So I didn't take that for granted. I was just, there was so much emotion that happened for like a super long time.
I loved watching you just recall that. I could really feel, I think because in this audio medium, it's hard like for a listener to really see, but I like that we're able to see you. And I was like able to see you recall that because I could feel the emotion that you were feeling and just like you going back into that moment. So thank you for sharing that. Sorry, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting too, like something that you said, I think, I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head, Nathan and Patrick, when exactly, like how old you were when you were adopted, but I think we're all pretty young. But like, I think especially when you're a baby, it's easy to think because naturally your memories don't go back that far. So it's easy to just be like, I know that I'm adopted, but I have memories of being in America and being with my adoptive family. And so then, thinking about yourself as Korean and kind of that affirming sense of like, oh, I did exist in another place. Because if you don't think about that and you have no memories of it, then it can just feel like you're almost gaslighting yourself. Like there's just ethereal, I belong nowhere. And so, yeah, just, I think what I saw in you was the weight, and recalling the weight and the gravity of like being rooted and grounded in a country called Korea, that there was like documented evidence of my existence there, and the way that that begins to shift how you think about yourself, I think is really unique and interesting. And yeah, I don't know, I've not ever thought about my lack of memories as some bit of untethering in my, my being. But hearing you tell your story really gives me more language and gives me more ways to think about what it means to be who I am as an adoptee. So yeah, no question. Just thanks for sharing.
And as a photographer myself, when I got my paperwork from my biological search too, I also got a photo back. So I don't know how you felt when you saw that photo specifically. For me, it was like, because I've seen so many photos of myself as a kid, like you said, as your parents have taken these photos, and you see those and you remember those, and you remember those moments because you've seen the photo. Like you don't remember the moment, but you remember the photo thinking, oh, I was doing this cute thing here and that. When I saw that other photo of me in my file, I was like kind of amazed at it, because it at first I said, that doesn't look like me. But the second thing I thought was, wow, there's a photo of me that I've never seen before, number one. Number two, it's like, think of all the other photos that could have potentially been around that are not there. What do you think of that photo, I guess, that you've seen? Do you... I see you digging around in some paperwork here.
Sorry, I had to
furiously
get it out.
rifling
so
through
it
documents.
Came, it came in this little envelope.
Interesting.
So I have.
Oh, nice. Yours is in color. See, mine's in black and white. Not to age me, but
in there, and then they decided to do a little close up.
That's real cute.
Wow.
Of myself, but like, I had never seen myself, like, as a fresh newborn, I guess,
right.
Like swaddled and brand new to the world. I had never seen that. I just saw myself eyes fully open, able to, at least hold my head up and everything. So that kind of brought to my attention, like, I was there. An infant version of me did exist and everything. And then there were some negative connotations that I kind of associated with it too, where the smaller one has a placard with my case number on it. Just adoptees in 1990, there were so many of us, I feel like. And I went through this period of time where I saw after I got that back, saw myself with the case number in front of me. And I was like, this kind of makes me feel like an item put up for auction, or like a dog being adopted, where I have like, this code associated with me. And, and, someone with enough money and resources is, gonna basically import me from this foreign country to their homeland, and then essentially do with me what they will. So it's a mixed bag of a lot of emotions, but I am so grateful to have at least like a piece of my infantized self.
Well, especially going from where you started, like, having the block of like your adoptive family say, we're not going to help you. And then to go out and dig a little, take a break, and then come back and dig again. And to get some almost instant gratification in the sense that they got back to you so quickly, I think
they weren't messing around.
I think it's amazing that you were able to receive that, because I've also heard, the horror stories of trying to retain or to get your information, or even a little bit, and how the runaround that you can get. So I think it's really incredible that you were able to get this robust file of information. Because like you said earlier, I think for non-adopted people, you can take some of that for granted. And for me, just really quickly, my parents kept my file, my adoptive parents, and those pictures that you just showed, I have two that look almost identical. Even in just like the way that I'm posed in the picture, looks very similar. And I was also adopted in 1990, so maybe they were just like, we're gonna just run down the line and snap some pictures of babies.
That's what it looks like. All of us are just in, the newborn containers, and they're just
you get a card.
Popping pictures.
Everybody gets a card.
But
Headshots for babies. Next.
I just thought that's really amazing. You were able to get that information, and so having this now, like, where do you go next? Like, you're like, okay, I have my information, and it's like, and like you said, I could be good, or I can continue on this journey. Where were the next steps for you?
So from there, I went into it with the requests, like, I want to find my birth parents. I want you to send, whatever you can to them, essentially. So they said that they would send a telegram to both parents via their government ID.
Wait, did you say telegram?
Yes, that's the language that they told me. It may have gotten lost in translation, but every time they said we sent like a communication to them, it always came back in my email as telegram.
All right.
So,
I'm okay with that.
So they sent it to both of them, as far as I know. And then I didn't hear from them for a while. So I started in May 2014, got the documents, and then I checked back in August. They apparently sent the telegram in July. And then I got a letter back from my dad end of August, beginning of September, I think, of that year.
Letter from your birth father.
A letter from my birth father. I can't remember, because for my birth father, my birth mother was different experiences. For my birth dad, in that initial search, I composed a letter to both of them, essentially.
Like one letter to both?
Yeah,
or,
just
okay.
An introductory, like, hey, I'm your kid, I'm trying to find you. I didn't really know what to put, so I did that, like, biographical, here's a name that I was given when I went over, here's my current age, here's what I'm doing. I really kind of want to connect with you, and then I just kind of ended it, because as an adoptee, I'm sure you guys know, like, I don't know what to put in that initial letter.
Say? Yeah,
I get it. I really don't know.
I'm curious now. I don't even remember what I put in mine. I should go find it.
You should, you should try to find it, because in that I'm just like, I don't even know how.
I don't know what I would say.
Hey, my name is Kate. It's complicated. And, I'm probably this old, assuming everything is accurate. And I think I might be your kid, and I would like to meet you, I guess.
Yeah, cool, that's essentially the mindset that I went in. They're like, oh, like the agency just went in all casual, like, well, clearly you'll send a letter. And I'm like, will I?
Wait,
are you sure? So
it's not supposed to be a telegram stop.
So yeah, I composed it, and then he sent one back very quickly. And then we started communication from there.
That is amazing. So I want to ask what that initial reaction was like, but you mentioned that you had an experience where you received a letter from your birth mom as well.
Yeah, that didn't come until end of 2019.
Okay.
So I had learned from being in different Facebook adoptee groups that, and I guess it was a rumor at the time, that you can only send a certain amount of letters. And the way it was phrased, I thought you could only send a certain amount of letters in your entire lifetime. Like, you can only send 3 for your entire life. So when I hadn't heard from her, I, sent that one in 2014. I sent another one in end of 2014. And they're like, okay, well, this is 2. And I was like, oh no, I can't send another one. I guess I'll just wait and be patient. And then I learned later, no, through Holt specifically, as the only experience I can really speak to, you can reach out 3 times a year. Beyond that is considered harassment. That's the language that they used in the email to like Holt explained it to me.
You can't
when I
spin
wanted to
here.
like confirm it,
Yes.
they're like, we'll send them ourselves. Like we'll send it 3 times and then we have to like pause for a year and then we can like revisit it. So once I learned that, I reached out in November of 2019 to see like, hey, I haven't searched for my birth mom in a really long time. She's kind of the one that I wanted to find. I don't know if that's an adoptee specific, like I want to find my mother. But I really wanted to find her. So I reached back out to them, and then the day before Christmas Eve, they're like, we have a Christmas present for you. We found your birth mom.
Wow.
And I was at work and I like screamed out loud.
Yeah, did you say like I gotta go now?
Yeah, like I gotta. I'm out.
I
I'll be
couldn't
back.
really. I worked in a bakery at a grocery store, so like that was our busy season. So I couldn't just like peace out.
His
So-
bread's not gonna bake itself.
So luckily it was like an early morning shift, so I was able to leave and kind of like absorb like, oh my god, I found both of them.
Yeah.
Which is
That's-
bizarre because you hear all these horror stories of, you know, like I tried to search and I found out that they passed away, or, you know, I tried to search and I couldn't find them, or, you know, I was abandoned on the side of a road in Korea, which I've heard a lot of stories that that's super common. And like, I'm just still in shock. Like I found both of them. And I don't know how, but I was able to find both of them like very separately.
Yeah. That is. Yeah. That's wild.
Did you ever ask your dad about your mom? If
I did. After the first few letters, because we sent them through Holt to get translated, he was getting a little frustrated with the delay in the translation because they were a little slow. So he was like, you know what? We have this app called Kakao Talk. So download it. Here's my username. We can like text with that and it'll be a lot faster. So we were texting for a while, but some things got lost in translation because I thought he said, hey, I know your mom. And I was like, you're still in touch with her? Can you get me in touch with her? Like, this is crazy. And he really meant like, no, like I know your mom's background, and I know her name, so that like I wanted you as my daughter to know her name, because if you don't get any information about her, like at least you have her name, type of thing. So I didn't ask outright. Our relationship got to the point where we were pretty open. So I was very open, like, you know, I'm so glad I found you, but I'm also looking for my mom, type of thing. So he was aware, and he reminded me to be patient with the search. Because it's especially the stigma in Korea of being a single mom, like, or, you know, just having that, being a woman in Korea who had a child and gave them up for adoption. If you remarry or have another family, you don't really want that family to know.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of the letters get ignored at first, because they get intercepted, or just like, I don't want to open this part of my past because it's disgraceful. All these little things. So yeah, in one of the letters that he had translated to clarify, he was like, just be patient. Korean mothers keep all of their children in their hearts, and know that like she still thinks of you, but just don't rush into it. And hopefully it'll happen, type of thing.
Well, one, I gotta say thank you so much for sharing that. Two, when I originally asked you about receiving the letter from your mom, did not realize it was going to be within the span of that time, and then just couldn't step in about just because it was an incredible story.
Sorry,
And you're perfectly fine. But I just wanted to step back for just 1 second, and because I don't want it to seem like we glossed over this point, the first letter you received was from your father there at the end of August 2014. So I just want to go back and touch on, like, this was the first one. What was that reaction like? You know, we talked about the reaction of receiving your information. What was it like to actually receive this letter from your biological father at that time?
Disbelief. Complete disbelief. A little bit of disappointment that they hadn't been able to find my birth mother. But the fact that one of my birth parents wanted to have that communication open and continue that with me and be accepting of it was unbelievable. Like, completely just, I was in shock. And I reread that letter a lot before responding with my letter. And I decided to be as open as I could and as vulnerable as I could, because I wanted everything to be extremely real and like, no boundaries. Like, you are my birth dad, so let's go. I want to know, everything as much as I can. It is a little awkward in the beginning because, I was in my 20s, like mid-20s. You don't know what to say at that point because you're talking as adults. But yeah, like, getting it, reading it, him explaining family stuff, and not necessarily his side because that came later, but like, just, he did the thing that both of them actually did where, they were glad that I grew up well, and to his knowledge, like, found a good family in America, and he was so grateful that I'd reached out, and like, he didn't feel like he deserved to be called my father, but he hoped that in time he would be deserving of the title of my father, type of thing. So all these little nuances that, doesn't really exist in America as far as, like, gratitude from parents to their children of, like, I'm so grateful you exist. And we put it into writing. That was insane. That was affirmation of, like, this could be a really, really good thing.
So then you got 5 years later, you got the letter from your mother on Christmas Eve. Do you want to touch on that a little bit and what that was like?
Yeah, that was...
Well, she obviously had to work.
Yeah, other than the bread part.
That was more shock. That was... I developed such a good relationship with my birth dad, and I compromised with myself again. Like, okay, if this is the only parent that I can find, I'll be happy. Like, that's, I'm an adoptee that found a parent. That's okay. This is really, really good. So getting a letter from her was earth-shattering on a psychological level. And it was handwritten, so they had scanned it and sent it to me and then sent a translation. She apparently wrote it at like 3:00 in the morning because she couldn't sleep after she had gotten news of me. So then she explained a bit of her situation. From what it sounded like, she was previously married. I have 5 siblings from her, and she couldn't, I guess, respond to the initial ones because her husband was still alive. So, like, she didn't want to have to do any explanation. But since I did it so late in 2019, her husband had passed away, and I guess she felt free from, like, a social aspect to, okay, I can reach out. And she said the same thing, like, I'm not deserving to be called your mother, but I'm like, I'm so happy you reached out. this is a bright moment in my life, and hopefully one day we can meet, type of thing. So just reading those words, seeing her handwriting, seeing those initial like words from a birth mother to a birth child was like, honestly, I couldn't absorb it for a couple weeks. I just kept revisiting it. I was in shock. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't send a response for like a month because I didn't even know what to say because I wasn't expecting it.
Mm-hmm. Did you eventually tell your father that you'd found her?
No. The adoption agency advised that because my birth parents weren't together when I was born, and they had been apart for so many years, to not tell either one of them that I had found the other. So
okay. I can see why that might be beneficial because you're mixing worlds that had
It
divided.
sounds like the beginning of a K-drama.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, I mean, and they probably honestly, the adoption agencies probably don't want any liability to anything like that as well.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. I don't think mine said that, but, and then I know we briefly talked before we started the recording. You said you have been to Korea.
Yes.
So when and why did you go back?
So
I don't want to put words in her mouth.
So obviously, a big part of my birth parent search and my search into my heritage was I always wanted to go back to Korea. Financially, it's a little difficult because of plane ticket prices and getting time off, but my partner actually gave me the trip to Korea as my Christmas gift in 2017. And we actually prefer doing, experiences and not things for gifts. So
yeah.
The Korea trip was really, he was like, this covers Valentine's Day, anniversary, birthday, everything. And I'm like, nice. That's fine. You're good for like 2 years. We're going to Korea.
I'm banking this in for multiple holidays, just a heads up.
Yeah.
Here's remember when we went to Korea for Valentine's Day? Here's Christmas next year. Here's a remember when you went to Korea birthday.
Just a different picture each time.
Yeah. Well, it's just like handwritten, like, we did this already.
Oh, right.
Just, like coupons, but in reverse.
Yeah. So we went in October of 2018. And I had coordinated first with my dad just to tell him like, hey, by the way, we're gonna be in Korea for 2 weeks in October. Do you want to meet? And he was like, absolutely, we can set it up with the agency. We can do this. So I set it up with them through email. We picked a date and a time to go to their office. They were kind enough to give me a map of where the agency was and a picture of the front so I would know where it was. And we purposely got an Airbnb in Mapogu, in a place very close to it. So it was like walkable from our Airbnb. And they had arranged for a translator to be there because they were like, okay, well, you'll have the initial office meeting with your birth dad, and then your birth dad wants to take you out for coffee afterwards. So a translator will be there, for as long as possible. So yeah, I had wanted to go for forever, and the fact that I could go was insane. And that wasn't the first thing we did. I wanted to give myself a few days to get through jet lag so I wasn't completely tired from that trip. And for my partner's sake, we went to the League of Legends Worlds was in Busan that year. So we saw a night of the play-in round for that, and that was That was surreal. That
Wild.
was a cool, like, welcome to Korea. Here's this beach
That
town
would
where you
be
get to see.
incredible.
Yeah, where you get
That's
to
a
see like
different
a.
episode.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Bring you back
and there
on to
might be
talk
people
about
who don't
games.
even know what we're talking about still.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a video game. Okay, so we'll move on.
It's a computer video game.
Esports tournament.
Yeah. Something
man.
that connected my partner and me, actually. We would play together
Nice.
early in our
Oh.
relationship. So we were like, oh, League is in Busan while we're there. Let's get tickets to that.
That's why he was going
incredibly
to
cool.
Korea. He was
So-
like,
So
yeah,
you
I know
just
you want
leave
to
me
go to
at
Korea
Busan.
for your really
Ooh.
personal thing, but I'm also going to go here.
It's
And
only a
then
couple
Mary
hours.
could have given it back to him as a card later, as like a gift. By the way, you remember that time we were there and you went
left
to?
me in Seoul,
We went to
stayed in
World.
Busan. Yeah, you fool.
So then you had the actual meeting there, plus the after coffee. So yeah, how was that? I know my experience with my my sister, when she's the first biological sibling that I met, and luckily we also had a translator, which was her friend was translating for us, which was, I feel, so important because I've also been back to meet my biological family there without a translator, and it was just so much more difficult. So that's great that you had a translator there for at least less awkward moments of silence.
Yes.
How was that? How was that experience? And what did it feel like? I guess to not only to see him, but to learn more about any of the questions and just experiences that you wanted to ask.
We had sent pictures back and forth, so we knew what we looked like. He had sent pictures of the whole family, so I knew what my aunts and uncles and cousins and grandmother looked like. He brought my little sister Sujin with him. And I learned later he didn't tell any of the extended family that I was there because he didn't know if the first in-person interaction would go well, wouldn't go well. And it went really well, to his surprise, but I can get to that later. The agency talked to me first, walked me through the process of, we're going to talk to you and then we're going to bring your dad in. And then I'll be here to translate. And you can ask whatever you want. I'll tell you ahead of time if there's something that we don't want you to ask specifically. And we kind of went over I was so nervous. I was like, okay, but these are the questions that I want to ask. Is this common for, an adoptee coming back to ask? And she's like, yeah, totally normal. I'm well prepared for, that almost line of questioning, but just, ask for whatever information you want. And I remember the two of them kind of walking in, and we stood up to greet each other, and my dad and I just kind of burst into tears, and hugged each other. And that kind of set the tone for the whole experience. I think we were crying on and off through the whole, I think in office was an hour of us just talking through the translator. Gosh, it's so hard to remember some of the conversation because so much happened that trip, but just having that connection and seeing them in person and being able to hear his side of the adoption story, and everything was so insane. I couldn't believe that he was there in front of me. I couldn't believe how much my sister and I looked alike. I was like, this is happening. This is real. Don't ever forget this moment. And then, we finally covered enough ground where we went out to coffee. And then we spent 4 hours, I think, just chatting over coffee through the translator. But because the translator was a volunteer, she had to leave. So then when she left, he invited us to go get dinner in his neighborhoods. And I hadn't known, but he had called all of his siblings and said, like, hey, my birth daughter is here. Let's go take her out to dinner. So then we went to his house in his car, and I was nervous. I was like, I'm in this car with my birth dad and my sister and my partner, and we are driving to I don't know where, and we were driving like
Hope they're all cool.
like 35 minutes away. Like, I no longer have a translator. I don't know Korean.
Yeah.
What did we get ourselves into? So we went to their house first, and I met my grandmother, and that was, after hearing his side of the story, that was such an insane experience. When I had been sending him letters with my picture, he had printed one out to show her, and she had actually stolen it from him and kept it under her pillow and would always like kind of look at it and have it out. And he told me about that in a letter, and I was like, that is adorable. That's so great. But yeah, after that we went to a K barbecue place by his house, and two of my uncles showed up and one of my aunts showed up, and we were talking through Papago as best as we could.
Mm-hmm.
One of my uncles knew some English because he was he's in technology, so he travels around the world a lot. So he kind of helped, but it was just, I remember just sitting at the dinner and looking around at the table of my blood family and being like, this is here. This is my family. They're accessible and they're real. And they keep looking at me too. Like, this is a movie. This isn't happening. And yeah, it was shocking and incredible. And yeah, I made sure to like burn that experience into my memory.
Very surreal.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, but how was the gogi? How was the barbecue? Was it good?
It was good. It was, I had never gotten Korean barbecue before, so they had to teach me
What a first experience.
how to do it.
Cool.
So I learned firsthand like how long to grill each of the meats, and I learned how to make the lettuce wrap and how to, like dip the meat already cooked into salt and pepper and put it in, and then put gochujang on top and the grilled veggies, and then just wrap it up and eat it in one bite. And I had never known, like, I was never exposed to a K barbecue restaurant, so it was meaningful to have that first experience with him. Like, this is a communal thing, we do this a lot. So like learning how to eat that with my dad was incredible.
Yeah.
I remember having that experience with my parents and my foster mother, and how sweet and special that was, and watching especially like my mom and my foster mom interact and do that. But yeah, food is I think especially Korea being such a like historically agrarian society, it's such a thing that centers and creates the community, and so I think especially having that moment and having that moment with your family around a meat pit, whatever, that's probably the best way to say that, right?
I guess, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, but I mean
grill.
that, yeah, like really, yeah, you could call it a grill, but it's a meat pit. It's a meat pit inside of the table. Yeah, and with your partner there and everything, like that is a really, really wonderful experience, and I'm so happy for you that you had that, and I'm so grateful that you came on and talked about that. I just, yeah, that's a really cool time, and I love food, and I love food with family, and I think that is really nice. So thank you so much. We are going to take a break because all this talk about food means we should probably transition to a food segment of our own.
Because we could talk to you for a long time.
Yeah,
about
there's like
a lot of
7
stuff.
other parts of your story that like we still haven't gotten to yet. But I think it's so we're gonna create more community on our own in a minute after the break, after we figure out what we're eating. It's not K barbecue. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, be jumping in with a Korean snack or drink item. Here we go.
I want meat pit.
Nathan, roll into it.
Welcome back to the Janchi. Sorry.
He's forgotten how the show works.
No, it's because I remember what you told me on the last time because I was getting ready to say it again. So
the food
I
portion.
was like eating portion. It's not eating portion. It's food portion. So
Well, we do eat, but we also
It's
drink.
true.
It's the mukbang portion.
The mukbang.
welcome back to the Janchi Show food portion. See, I got it right that time. Food portion.
Almost
Although
did.
we are eating the food.
Hey, y'all, welcome to the food portion of our show.
Or eating food. Korean
Nathan-
food. Yeah.
Northern Norwalk was born in
Northern
Oklahoma, so now
Norwalk.
he just talk like this now.
I'm progressing. So yes, we today just had an amazing interview with Mary Byrne. And although we are not having a meat pit right now, we are having a snack
Good
of
time.
Korean origin with one of Korea's favorite little characters, Pororo.
Pororo.
Pororo. Pororo seems to be on a lot of stuff. I don't know. Have you guys noticed that? Did you see a lot of this, Mary, when you were in Korea? Have you ever heard of Pororo?
I haven't. I honestly didn't pay attention to the snacks until we were leaving, and I was like, "Oh, I have to get snacks for all my friends." But
You had more important stuff
no,
going
I
on.
was, absorbing so much other stuff that I like.
Yeah.
Something like important and
The important things
monumental
other than
in life.
Pororo
Yeah.
snacks.
I was like,
Just
"Let me
pay
around my
attention to the
family. I don't,
snacks.
Sure.
I don't need to know characters." I do recognize him though, because I saw a Korean children's show randomly live on YouTube, and I got curious. So
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure he's from.
That's probably the same one.
An
Yeah.
educational TV show.
I will
Yeah.
say this is the first packaging I've seen him making someone nervous. This little monkey in the corner is not happy about Pororo.
It's
looks
because
so
he's stealing his
nervous.
Hey, man,
bananas.
why are you
That's
trying to steal
why.
my banana?
He said, "These are my bananas."
That's
So yes, this is
banana.
a
Why you gotta be
Korean.
like that?
This is a Korean cartoon. They started in 2003, so they've been around for a while. I know if you go to your local H Mart, you'll find Pororo on a lot of different things. Like he's on everything from noodles to snacks to kids' drinks to everything. So,
Old Winky McGee on my package here. Bing, bing.
Yes,
yeah, that's Krong. Krong.
So I opened-
Nathan, quit knowing so much about
Sorry.
everything in
First,
Korea.
first you come out as a closet BTS
Yeah.
army, and now you're coming out as a closet whatever
Pororo
Pororo fans
stand.
call
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
Pororo. Yes, I know. So, yes, but
Ooh,
this
this
is
smells
banana
good.
flavor. It looks like a little ice cream cone,
Smells good.
wafer. Mary,
I'm
you've
gonna
got
say
the strawberry flavor.
Mine is
This is
strawberry.
pungent.
That is the one that I could find. When I saw
Ooh.
the
It is.
picture at first, I thought it was supposed to be cold, and I was like, "Oh," but
But it's not. It's very fragrant. You're right. Mine
it's super fragrant.
smells very much like banana.
Odorful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Is
The
yours?
formidable scent.
And it's super solid on top. Like
Mm-hmm.
the picture makes it look soft.
It's
Yeah,
a little
I just bit
soft.
into it, and I don't know what it is.
I'm not gonna lie, it smells like pure gasoline.
It stings the nostrils.
Oh yeah, I don't know about the consistency of this.
Huh.
I like the
I li-
cone on the outside.
The cone is like a wafer. So the cone is just a wafer that's a very long, very long cone.
Kind of smells like bubble gum, and then also tasted like bubble gum, except not chewy. It just dissolved into my mouth and went down my throat.
It's a very dissolving sugar.
The super dissolving sugar.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, mine's tastes like banana.
It reminds me of whatever that little cream thing was on the corn cheese. That like,
Ugh.
where it was, like,
yeah.
weird.
Oh, the
Whatever
cool
that was
stuff.
made of. Mm-hmm. It's made of the same stuff, which is weird, but it makes sense in this ice cream cone thing. It didn't
Mhm.
make sense on the corn cheese.
I don't know.
This isn't bad.
It's not bad.
I'm not hating
I
it.
like it.
I'm not.
The
My
the
kids ate
banana
it
is
pretty quickly. So
too strong.
how's
Yeah,
the
I would
strawberry
like
one?
a different
I
flavor.
really like the strawberry.
You like
Yeah,
the
I
strawberry?
I know the
It's
strawberry is
really good. This is getting added to my list of snacks to get to eat more.
Yeah, so I'm going in for a second one because
Yeah.
it's serving.
I'm not because my
serving
box
is
was
3
open
cones.
and it only had 2 of them in it.
Yeah, I know.
Nathan
Because
sent me a bunch of open stuff. not fully packaged.
I'm budgeting.
What the heck, Norwalk?
Actually makes
I'm
sense.
budgeting.
That's smart to do for me because I would 100% eat multiple.
Yes. If you had 12 in your package or your box, you would have eaten 11 of them before this filming. So, yeah,
You're
I'm
not
just
wrong.
making sure.
You are
I'm just
not
making sure
wrong.
you only have a couple to try, and I'm making sure that you both have 2. That's up to you on sharing with your significant others.
Ooh, that's
So-
why there's 2. I 100% would not have shared it. I would have, but I will share it now.
This is number 2.
All right. Well,
But yeah,
let's get into let's rate these puppies or these alligators. I don't know. Mary, what would you rate your strawberry ice cone snack?
On what scale?
1 to 5 cones. How many cones?
Oh.
how many krongs? Bing, bing.
I would say 4 cones out of 5 cones.
4 cones out of 5.
Nice.
Whoa, okay.
It is super, super good. I think what would take it to the 5 level is if it was chocolate, because I really, really love chocolate. But this is really, really good. I was a little nervous to try. Like, I'm always nervous to try Korean treats, but this was amazing. So yeah, 4 out of 5.
All right, I hear you. I hear you on the chocolate too. I think this would have been fantastic were it chocolate.
Yeah.
All right, KJ, how many bings out of 5 are you giving this?
Okay, so here's a weird take. I am gonna give this 3.5 out of 5. It's really good, and I think it's actually too sweet.
Interesting.
Which is not a thing that I would ever say. I ever thought I would say about a Korean snack or dessert item, but yeah, I think it's almost too sweet. And the thing is, like, so I just ate most of 2 of them. I had like 1 3/4, because I felt shamed that I didn't share any. But, I don't know that I could have 3, and a serving is 3. And I think
saw that.
like, even honestly, if I had finished 2, I don't know, I would be like, this is a lot. So yeah, so it's pretty good, but I couldn't have that many of them, which maybe that works in my favor, my favor in trying to, not overeat and be
Yeah.
gluttonous.
All right.
So maybe that's how Koreans do it. They either their desserts are not so sweet that you want to keep eating them, or they're so sweet that you literally can't keep eating them.
That makes
So-
sense. The binary.
I don't know.
All
Okay,
right.
They
it's one or the other.
Where's that meat pit though?
Where that meat pit at? All right, so we got a 4, a 3.5. Nathan, how many kronks?
I'm going
How many
krongs.
Oh, krongs.
This isn't crunky. This is, I don't know. I like it. It's the wafer reminds me of like the wafer crackers, only in a cone shape,
Mm-hmm.
and the filling reminds me of like a kind of like an airy banana chocolatey thing. I don't think it's too sweet. I mean, it's still a candy, so I'm gonna give it 4. Also, 4 out of 5.
Okay. I hear you. I'm also going to give it a 3.5. I can see where you're coming from the sweetness. I wish it was strawberry. And then I also, after the strawberry, wish that it was chocolate. I think different flavors would definitely bump it up
That's
in the
just
rating
not banana.
scale. And just the consistency of the cream, I thought, was just the only, like, if it could have been, I don't know what I'd change, but that would also bump it up. So
I
I'm
just
going-
don't understand the need to like create artificial cold stuff.
I don't
That's
I
not
don't
actually
either.
cold.
I don't either.
So just so you know, they do have chocolate flavored, strawberry flavor, banana flavor, and a
Ooh.
vanilla yogurt flavor.
Nope. I can already tell you
Oh.
that does not taste good. I like vanilla yogurt, but I guarantee that the consistency of that is not good.
Hot
Yeah,
take.
so yogurt, strawberry, chocolate, banana.
All
Let's do
right.
one more.
Well, there you
go.
have it for the Pororo ice cone snack, banana and strawberry edition. Again, Mary, want to thank you for joining us here on the show. An excellent, wonderful interview. If people are not going to be able to wait to hear the rest of your story before you come back on the show, where can they find you at? If you want
I'm
them to.
on Instagram as @partialfiddle.
Partial
At
fiddle.
Partial fiddle. Which part of the fiddle? Was that a
I'm not
terrible
sure.
joke? No,
That
he
was a-
said
kind of a dad
no.
joke. I like that.
Sorry, I could not help myself. All right, well, that is at Partial Fiddle on Instagram to find Mary Byrne. Again, definitely going to have you back because there's so much more of your story that we want to unpack, just like there is of all of ours. But again, I've already said it. This is one of my favorite interviews so far this year, and can't wait to continue with your story. If you want to find us, you can get us on all of the social medias at Janchi Show. If you want to send us an email about whatever, you can do that to janchishow@justlikemedia.com. I'm speaking really weirdly in like a weird grammatical
You're
way.
talking fine.
I don't know. Okay. And if you really like what you've been hearing, like this wonderful interview with Mary, you can go. We would love it if you would go on to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and or a review. Again, you can leave us 5 stars. That would be great. Even if you hate the show, make sure it's 5 stars and then just trash us in the comments.
And then just rake us
That's
through the mud.
totally fine. But
just
it has to be a
drag us.
5 stars. What else? We have merch at janchishow.com/store.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Shop.
Or shop.
Shop.
Either one.
I think it's shop. Anyways, you can go to janchishow.com and find out all the other stuff that we have going on. I think we have some announcements coming up too, but I'm not going to spoil them here. If you want to find me, you can go to @PatrickInTheWorld on Instagram.
If you want to find me, you can find me at KJ Roki, wherever I want to be found on the internet.
And you can find me on the internet everywhere. I don't know. And Nowalk at Instagram. I don't know. You guys always say where you want to be found. Is like, obviously, you want to be found at these places if you're on it.
I'm only on certain places, not on Facebook.
Yeah, you just got to know the places, and then if you're like on a place and you're like, hey, I wonder if KJ is there. I'm probably there as at KJ Roki, but if I'm not there as at KJ Roki, then I'm just not there.
Yeah,
so I don't want to be found there. You know,
then
like you won't ever find me on.
I want to find
Tumblr,
you where you don't want to be.
But you won't find him there.
Yeah,
so
that's
or
the thing.
will I?
He's not there
because it's the internet. It's the internet.
It's the internet. All right. Well, that is it for this week. Another episode in the can of the Janchi Show. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will be back next Wednesday with another episode.
Thank
so
you
until
again,
then,
Mary.
Janchi, hey,
Janchi, hey,
bye-bye.
Yeah, I have all like the original emails from Holt, and I have, if I'm back on again, I can tell you that thing that I did as a kid where I'm like, I want to take a picture of myself with my mom and dad in a collage so I see who I look like. And I wasn't able to do that until I was 30. And then I did it and I was like, holy shit. Like, what?